Well, hello everybody, and welcome again to the Weirdly Magical podcast with Jen and Lou. And today we'll be talking about the Aries new moon that's on March the 24th, but I'll say more about that in a minute. Jen, do you want to introduce yourself?
Hi everyone, I'm Jen Duchenne of jenduchenne.com, and I am a Akashic healer, reader, guide, and teacher, and the creator of the Illuminating Journey Cards.
And I am Louise Eddington, the Cosmic Owl of Cosmic Owl Astrology. And I am an astrologer and writer of 2 astrology books, Modern Astrology and The Complete Guide to Astrology. And I also, that's about it for now. We'll talk more about it at the end. But first, before I forget, we have a Patreon, patreon.com/weirdly magical. For just $3 a month, you can support our work. And we also take questions, weirdlymagicalpodcast@gmail.com, if you have any questions you'd like answered on one of the episodes. I don't think we've got any for this time.
I think we did get a question.
Oh, we did? Oh, well, I'll look for that while we pull cards and things, so I don't forget. So do you want to show us your cards first?
Absolutely. So I actually pulled 2 cards because the first card was the number 2 with the orange background, and I am amused by the 2 because we are in a 2020 year, and of course this moon is at the 4 degrees, which 2 and 2 is 4, and this idea of being in supplication or opening up to the idea of 2 sides meeting. How do 2 sides meet? We set boundaries, we decide what is a bridge for us. So I think that's really fascinating. And so I pulled another card as well, which is the 15 Soul Portal from the Illuminating Journey card deck. And this makes a 6 and 15. And what's interesting about this card, for those of you who can't see it, is that it's a figure looking at a pool in a cave, this green pool with emeralds, and in the center is this huge plate of what looks like bubbles, and it's all rising and a way out of the cave. So it feels very much about needing to have the energy and the belief to hold your dreams afloat, so to rise above maybe what others think or believe. So thinking about being in a cave, being away from what other people think, and truly connected to what is your truth, what you know is yours to lift up out of the dream world.
Well, I found it interesting that Jen chose the 2 first of the cards, of course, because I picked the 2 of Wands, which is Dominion. And this is the Mars in Aries card. And here we have the new moon in Aries at 4 degrees. And it's the first new moon of the astrological new year. So I count it's kind of my new year, if you like, more than January the 1st. And this card is really all about, if you think about, see, everything's coming into the center. For those that can't see it, there's it's like everything's drawn into the center. It's if to say that I am matters, and once you draw in and you become just focused on what you can do and what action you can take to move towards your dreams and to start the new year and to create things, then you kind of are in your dominion. You are the I am presence, if you like. So that's what the card means to me, really. So yeah. So that kind of, have you frozen again, Jen? I think she
Not
has.
as far as I know.
Oh, you did. You froze briefly. We're having a bit of internet problems today, but we will work with it. It's okay. So, was there anything else we wanted to say before we dive into the chart? I don't think there was. We do have some questions. So I think we'll just address one of them on the end. We'll discuss at the end which question we're going to answer. We've had a couple. Some of them are a little bit difficult to answer on air without going and doing calculations, I have to say. But so this new moon, Jen,
Right.
6-1 at 4 degrees. Ooh. And the new moon, new year, conjunct Chiron, conjunct Black Moon Lilith, and square to the nodes, and lots of other things going on in the chart. We've also got Venus in Taurus, exactly square to Ceres in Aquarius. We've got Saturn at 0 degrees Aquarius, which is a crucial point for the rest of the year, and we'll talk about that more. We've got Pallas Athena at 22 degrees Capricorn, the point where where Saturn and Pluto met on January the 12th. And we do have Pallas Athena, Jupiter, and Pluto and Mars all clustered together in Capricorn. So there's quite a lot around the chart to speak about, but I'll let you dive in first with whatever you want to say, Jen.
All right. So talking about, as we talked about before, March is a 7 universal months. So it's all about the inner wisdom, delving deep into the essence of the I am. I do think that both our cards, or the 3 cards, all speak to the same thing, finding our truth in the midst of the noise. It's coming to a point of who we are, kind of finding who we are in this. And so that very much speaks to the 7 months of, you know, not living our lives the way they were, but looking around us at what is true now and taking a step into that, becoming who we are. And I think this idea of this new moon, and of course Aries, according to the old system, to the wheel, Aries would be the first month of the year, and it makes sense. Aries is considered the first sign. It is the fire. It is the coming into ourselves. So this is on the 24th, and that is a 6. So we know this is about love. And interesting, the card that I picked was the 15, which is a 6. It's about being in love with the life we have, the experience we're having, the family we're with, our society. So instead of being at war with it, finding the parts that work for us so that we can go forward, right? Because when I know Mars is considered a war sign, and it's very interesting when you think about that ideology of war, in the sense of when we're at war with who we've been, or how the way that it's been, and we're moving towards using our intelligence and our wisdom to connect with others. It's very powerful. And then of course we have which makes a 13, because 7 plus 6 is 13, and that's the divine goddess. And we have a lot of feminine energy coming through again in this chart. And many of the charts that we've had has been a humongous female influence in the sense of the intuition. 7 is very much an intuitive number, but the intuition, the way of opening ourselves, our communication from the divine, letting that flow in so that we're not just using our minds to kind of dismiss what we can't see, but actually using our minds in conjunction with the inner knowing, which is very powerful. So you can think about yourself as this springing towards this energy, becoming that, being renewed. And then the 4, which of course the 6th new moon at 4 degrees is very powerful, because that 4, when you think about the number 4, and we've talked about this is about stabilizing the system you're going to move into. And when we're stabilizing that system, we're creating a grid that will help us. So both of the, even the cards that we both pulled, is very much about creating that grid, that system that's going to support us. The beliefs, the understanding, the knowledge. What do I need so I can trust my own beliefs? What do I need so I can go forward in those beliefs? What do I need so I can express myself and feel safe in what I'm building and creating? So I think this moon is very much in that energy. It's very revolutionary
Mm.
in the sense of breaking free, breaking away. And when we do that, and that's why we have so many fours for every new moon is a new seed. And we think about Aries in the northern hemisphere is about seeding something new. So we're lighting a fire within us. We're bringing forward um, a rebirthing, a revolution of how we think, how we work, how we operate in the world. And yeah, so that's what this is kind of saying to me.
And of course, Aries is the pioneer. And so it's not only the warrior, I think everybody goes, oh, Mars, god of war. But it's also about fighting for something. It's beginning, it's pioneering, it's initiating. And this new moon is conjunct Chiron, as I said. That's the key to healing. And it's also conjunct Black Moon Lilith. They're all at 4, 5, and 6 degrees, interestingly. And so it feels to me, since Chiron's been in Aries, there's been a lot of talk about healing the divine masculine. But for me, I think it's more about healing the I am, healing your own identity as a part of the whole. It's really figuring out who you are in this new paradigm that we're moving into. And this new moon being so closely conjunct to Chiron, I think is a real start for bringing in what we've learned about who we are in this new age that we're moving into. And Lilith in there as well. She was the original woman. She's kind of our wild self, our unsubjugated self, if you like. And she's also related to where we've felt shame in the past, where we've been shamed. This is, to my mind, all these cluster, the sun, the moon, Chiron, and Lilith together, is about healing, about any shame you may have felt about just living, about existing, about who you are. I think we've all felt that at some point in our lives, and we've probably all got some residual. There's always we always believe we're the ones who've got something wrong with us, generally, or there's a part of us that does. This new moon is really about kind of leaving that behind and healing. And the fact it's square to the lunar nodes in Capricorn and Cancer, I think is very key as well, because anything that's square to the nodal axis is a pivotal point between the past and the future. And the South Node is there in Capricorn. We've talked about it over and over, that we're being asked to move away from reliance on the man-made rules, or giving our control away to outer authority of any kind, and move towards this more protective, self-centered, in a good way, kind of moving into knowing, you can care for those you love first of all, and move towards this more nurturing, playing your own part kind of energy. So, yeah.
Yes, absolutely. And I was just thinking as you were talking, Lou, the fact of the matter is that uh, Mars is also our sexual energy, our libido. It is where we give life. So we're creating life, or life within us, which is something to think about. As we go forward, the true energy of the warrior is not to destroy, but in fact to bring life to. So that is the true meaning of the warrior, is that the warrior follows the path of her truth, as opposed to so if she is cutting anything down, she's cutting down the strings that are attached to this idea that we have, like, I've got to make nice to somebody, I've got to agree with somebody, even though in my heart I don't agree, that I'm a lesser being, that I don't have what it takes. And if we're coming from a point of wholeness, of newness, then yes, we have everything we need. And if something comes up, then it's something we need to learn or change. And we can do that. And we do that through action, right? We're not going to do it by sitting around.
And
Yeah, go ahead.
to add to what we're both saying, the ruler of the new moon, the ruler of Aries, Mars, is at 25 degrees of Capricorn on this new moon, conjunct Pluto, conjunct Jupiter, conjunct Pallas Athena. They're all at 22, 23, 24, 25 degrees, with Mars at 25 degrees. And, it feels like building on what began way back when Saturn and Pluto met, and we had this major conjunction at 22 degrees. Mars has been crossing over these planets, and Jupiter's coming up behind, and Pallas Athena behind. It's saying, create, we've dug up what's not working. Now it's time to build what is working, and start to create this new vision. And Mars is very much associated with Pluto as well. So the two of those conjunct, going back to that sexual creative energy, is saying create these new institutions, create these new rules to live by. And I'm not just speaking about our ruling institutions, I'm speaking about in your own life as well. It doesn't have to be on the realm of the government and the banks. This is create this your own structures. It's very much about building, I think, this new moon, and starting, and having a new start. So
Right. And the other part about it is that Aries being the first sign and Mars being very what they call young energy. So the point is, it's this youthful energy. So the energy of whatever, the fountain of youth, this idea of being renewed, so that your resources are being renewed, the way you see and articulate in the world is being renewed. So it gives you this ability to bring fire into your life, and fire in a sense of, this stuff's not working. I want to clean house. I want to get rid of all the things that aren't working, so I can actually see the bigger picture. I can go on my journey, right? We're all here to go on our own, whatever they call it, hero's journey or whatever. It's this journey we take through our lives of going, right, I'm at this place, and this is so exciting that I can activate many dreams and ideas and beliefs that I probably have had in my psyche, but I haven't lived in the world. So I think that's really what this is all about. Mars kind of skipping over all of these energies and integrating with them. And to think that our old belief about Mars has been very much one-dimensional, in the sense that it's a male, which, yes, it's male energy, but then we also have female energy. How do we bring the two together? How do we activate that energy so we can live with both? Remembering we're in that 2020 year, the twos, the four, the two, even the twos that we both got. This is about finding a new dynamic. How do we work with the polarity of being male and female? How do we work with the polarity of needing to make our own way in a new way, as opposed to somebody else telling us what to do, which is where we've lived. We've lived in an environment where we've always had somebody else telling us how it is and how we need to do it and how it's done and how we become successful and all of those things. And now we're treading a new path. So we're having to discover how it's done, what is true for us, and how can we be who we are in a world where we have people with different opinions and different ideas, right? We can't just kill them all off, unfortunately. No, I'm joking.
some days I feel that.
Right. But I mean, in a sense, we can kill off the demonization of these people, this idea that somebody else is stopping us from being who we are. That's all bullshit. No one's stopping us from being who we are except us and our beliefs. So this is the perfect month, the perfect moon to go, screw that. I'm not going to stay blocked in that thing where everyone's against me or nobody understands me and they don't understand what I choose. I'm actually choosing to love
Yeah.
my ideas, love who I am, and just go with that energy and that joy. And, and that way I'll forge my path, and perhaps I'll even meet new people or meet people in new ways and see kind of what they can bring.
And
right? What we can create. Hmm?
speaking of meeting new people and or meeting people in new ways, one interesting thing about this chart is that 3 days before Saturn, the ruler of Capricorn, leaves Capricorn and moves into Aquarius, and Saturn is the traditional ruler of Aquarius also. So, and we are moving into the age of Aquarius, and the Saturn will be on the 0 degree of Aquarius. He moves into Aquarius, then he will retrograde back into Capricorn, and then move back into Aquarius again. And on the 31st, Mars and Saturn meet at that 0 Aquarius. I'll talk more about what this means in a second, but I just want to tell you how this is all lining up. And then on December the 21st, Jupiter and Saturn meet for a major conjunction at 0 Aquarius. And nobody knows when this age of Aquarius is actually beginning, but I would suggest that the 0 Aquarius degree is a very relevant point for all this, especially with all these conjunctions. And I do think we're going to get a foreseeing of how we are going to meet people in new ways, because Aquarius is very much about groups. It's very much about coming together for common causes. It's very much about the future. So I think we're going to start to see how we can build on these things that Jen was just talking about coming together, finding our commonality rather than the differences, and building on that. I don't think we're going to get it all right away, because this is Saturn dipping into Aquarius. When Mars and Saturn meet on the 31st of March, I think we're going to get a bigger glimpse of where this might start to head. And then later in the year, when Saturn moves back into Aquarius and Jupiter, the big expander of everything, joins Saturn at 0 Aquarius, I think we're really going to see how things are going to move forward. So interesting that all ties in with elections.
Right. And isn't that something that hasn't happened with the moving into air signs? It's
Air
since
signs for,
1412 or something.
yeah, about 600 years. Yeah,
Right. So
yeah.
that's pretty significant as well. And building up to that, the other thing is remembering that the 4 is all about building. So it
Mm,
certainly makes a lot of sense when we think about earthing or building or laying the foundation. So we're just at the beginning. This is something to really keep in mind, because I notice that because we have a world, we live in a world where we want instant gratification, we want instant results, that we think that if something doesn't work completely right away, we've got to throw it away, and that doesn't make any sense. Everything is incremental. It is through making choices and doing it over and over again until it creates something solid that is lasting. It's just not a one time, oh, let's all get together and that's it. It's actually the work involved in making this happen. And I truly believe this is part of Saturn's role in Aquarius, is this idea of we want new institutions, we want new ways of working with money and working together.
mm,
Well, it takes us being more open about how we use our energies and how we talk to each other and how we communicate, and what we do, even more important, that will help us build this. It's just not, we can't just say, oh, I got this great idea and then
no.
let somebody else do it, right? We have to actually walk our talk and live this experience, even when it gets hard.
Mm,
And I think that speaks to this experience that we're having now with the coronavirus, which is forcing us to realize, like, where is our fear and how easy is it for us to get distracted or to kind of put down our truth because we're terrified of death.
yeah.
This death is a part of our lives. And in fact, Pluto is very active right now. And Pluto is the reminder of transformation through death. And I'm not saying we're all going to die or anything.
No,
I don't know. I'm sure there will be people dying, and
well,
that's a
there
very
always is.
right. There are always people dying, but in actual fact, the truth is, whenever we have a major shift, a revolutionary shift like we're having now, we can go back into history, and that's one thing we can look back at history, and we know that there are things like massive deaths when we have these revolutions. It's just one of those things, and it's you've got to think about it in terms of souls leaving because it's the soul's choice. It's not about um, anything else but that. When a soul chooses to die and decides to go, um, it can be sad, of course. We're sad about people we love leaving, but they are not just bodies, they are souls.
Yeah.
And this is the bigger picture, is we're not just a body, we're a soul, and that's why we have passion, and that's why we feel things, and it's great to feel things, but we want to be more than just a pile of feelings. We actually have to change things or do things, which I think is all this Aryan energy is all about. Actually, what can I do to have a different experience? What do I need to think about or focus on or bring about or connect to so I can have a different experience?
Speaking at a slightly more mundane level, and this, Jen's talked about the deaths and things. Speaking of the virus, I do think Saturn going into Aquarius on the 21st and Mars following is likely to bring restrictions in air travel and such like. And that's just the way it is. I do think it's like we're likely to feel the boundaries, the walls coming in a little bit, not in a fearful way, just to, stop the spread, basically. And I think some countries we're seeing it already a little bit, but I think with Aquarius being an air sign, and I do think Saturn moving in there will kind of bring some quite restriction on people's freedom of movement.
Right. And that's something also to think about, that authoritarian or restriction of movement is only fearful when we consider that somebody has power over us. When you consider that these are just choices people are making, decisions that leaders are making, etc.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have to get caught up in the emotion behind it or
Yeah.
feeling like somehow they're controlling us, and instead view it as something that they're doing because they think it's going to keep us safe.
Mm-hmm.
I also think that with Saturn going into Aquarius, we're actually going to be having solutions that are coming in. So this is I think there's a big theme at this time. And this,
Saturn moves slowly though, so
right,
yeah.
right, of course, Saturn moves slowly, but we do have Uranus activated, and
Mhm.
of course, they're in Saturn. Uranus is the modern ruler and is in Taurus, so there is going to be uh, impact, right? Physical impact of all of this. But I just think there's a way we get to choose if we want to be focused on what's somebody trying to do to me as opposed to what is the solution to this experience. What's the solution in terms of the virus even?
Mhm.
Uh, it's such an amazing opportunity for us to think about our immunity, how we think about immunity, not just our immune systems, but how we think about immunity in terms of living and what immunity we give to people, what we take away from,
Mhm.
just on the bigger picture as well as the kind of direct physical picture of our health and our risk. It's risky. We think about it being risky, being with people that we think are carrying some contaminants. But so we have to take care of ourselves. What is that to us? And we also don't want to go into a place of being controlled by fear,
Yeah.
because fear does a lot of things that we've experienced that are not good things. So, again, we can put love there or we can put fear there. And I do think that Chiron thing is such a big part of this, because 5 degrees, of course, 5 is the number of freedom. And so Chiron is offering us a freedom. So if you think about it, this corona disease or whatever it is, virus, is offering us an opportunity to find freedom in a new way, to find freedom from fear, to find ways of like, okay, well, I can wash my hands, I can, have my thieves oil, I can do this and that, I can take precautions, but I can also realize that probably most people will not die from this, right?
Yeah, they won't. Most people will get better quite, um, quite well, and maybe their immune system will be all the better for it afterwards too. It's
Well, yes, and it's an upgrade. We don't know where it comes from or what it's for, but it certainly is. Our system, our world is going through upgrades. We have a lot more. What do you call all of this? Like this kind of technology, and we're going to have more that impacts our physical bodies. And with Aquarius, we will definitely have more technology coming in.
oh,
Our bodies have to adjust very quickly, and they're very dense to these higher energies, these energies that people haven't tested, right? We talk about testing. We're bringing in all these different things. They're filling these cities with technology
yeah.
and all of those things that impacts us.
I do think there's a lot of thinking differently energy in this chart as well, because we've got Mercury out of retrograde by then, not quite out of shadow, but aspecting Hygeia in Mercury ruled sign Gemini, and Hygeia is health and hygiene. And I do wonder, and I've seen quite a few people kind of allude to this, if not directly speak to it already. If we've got to get over this whole antibacterial thing and get back to knowing that just good old cleaning and washing with soap and water is probably a lot healthier, and looking after your internal health rather than trying to block out every germ in the
Right.
world, you
And
know.
right, and eating good, healthy
Yeah,
food. We've got to go back to eating healthy food,
yeah.
uh, digesting our food, doing those things that make sense instead of eating more plastics or whatever it is. So all of those are just kind of logical things. And I do agree. It's kind of funny when you think about it, but if you look back in the past, some of the good things about looking back in the past, in the far past, was the technology that they used, right? They were very clever in how they used technology, and even things like hemp and all of that. I think we've talked about this. There's so many things we can do. Just like if you have something that's not working, like certain technologies or these rays I'm talking about, there are ways to cover them up and block, and have it so it's not impacting us. And these are all futuristic ideas that are available to us. Like,
Mm.
it's amazing what's available to us when you think about technology and what can be created, right? To create an easy environment to live in instead of a more difficult one.
We've become very antiseptic in our life, and the world will continue to find its way in to invade us. And talking of the thinking differently energy, Jupiter is actually square to Eris, the kind of table turner and shaker of puller down of white picket fences. And Jupiter's kind of saying, we've got to really start to change how we see things. This square is saying it. I think the square from Ceres in Aquarius to Venus in Taurus is asking us to really shake up and change how we look at the natural cycles of life, death, the seasons, all that kind of stuff on Earth. I think we're really being just the whole thing about just start looking at everything differently and think, maybe we didn't have it quite right. Maybe we need to shift that direction a little bit. It's there's a lot of change energy in this chart for sure.
Absolutely. Well, I think what comes to mind is the compulsive uh, behaviors we have about disorder, right? We're trying to constrict and go, okay, if I just clean this with all this stuff, right, and I take out everything that could be harmful, you're just there's just going to be something else, another strain that comes up that's going to be too hard to destroy. And instead of how do we live together? And
Yeah.
this applies to people, like people we don't like. We kind of think of them in those ways, like, oh, they're
Yeah.
germy. How do I get rid of them? How do I kind of inoculate them into thinking like I think?
Or the horrors of there was some of those anti-dairy protesters
Right.
stormed Biden's stage last night.
I was wondering what they were. I
It
didn't know
was
what they were protesting.
the dairy industry, and but people go, oh, how dare they do that? I'm like, well, how else are they supposed to get heard?
I think it's fantastic.
I do.
The freedom to express yourself. And
They weren't hurting anybody.
yeah, yeah. And they were having fun. And I think this is it. We take it way too seriously. And that's the same thing, I think your point you're making is all of these kind of germs in our world. We think we can just spray them away.
Yeah.
And but it doesn't work like that. We have to find a way to work with it, not against
Yeah.
it. Because when we're spending all our energy working against things, we have no energy left to work towards. And after all, isn't that the point? I think we get away from the point, and this time we're in, and this chart is all about coming back to the point, right?
It is, because Aries is so focused. It's like,
Right.
oh.
And right. And she's at the 23 degree, which I know she's been for a long time because she has a very slow movement. But then Jupiter too, that famous 23 degrees, which is that 5 as well, which is about freedom. It's about life. It's about
And the number of our DNA.
right, the number of our DNA. And it is also about this awareness of our courage, like the courage to follow what is true for us, as opposed to being, paying lip service or being cheap. I was going to say cheap, but to being as to being sheep. And this is it. We have an opportunity to move away from being just sheep, trying to go, oh yeah, let's just stick with the same thing. Everyone follow the same path. I think that's total bullshit. We must all follow our own path, and where we converge,
Together, yeah.
right, where we converge, and we can certainly compromise about certain things so that it makes it easier. But to give up our truth to follow someone else's truth is a terrible idea. I mean, that's why we got into so much mess. And I think that's really what Jupiter and Aries are kind of leading us towards. Even Venus, I mean, she's been so, Lilith, all these females have been so shortchanged. They have had a bad rap. Everyone says all the worst things about them.
Mm-hmm.
And it's all bullshit, right? And it's just one-sided. While there may be some things about it that are true, it's just such a cardboard image of all of that.
I have to give a little shout out for my favorite asteroid, Pallas Athena.
Indeed.
The shield maiden, if you like, the visionary ability to see things unseen before. Here she is, following all the planets in Capricorn. Everything's past her now, and she's coming up towards Pluto. But she's at that degree that I mentioned, that 22 degree, so another 4. And she, I think, is giving us the way forward. She is able to kind of have this piercing vision into what needs to change. She's the strategist. She creates plans. I'm quite excited about to see what will happen when she moves into Aquarius later in the year. But I think her being on this crucial degree and also about to square Eris is really important on this new moon. The end of that last week in March is going to be
quite intense. Well, traditionally this time of the year is what they call the spring,
yeah.
the kind of Arab spring, or I don't know if that's the right word. Hitler's birthday is the 20th of March.
Yeah.
There's a lot of that kind of fiery war mongering energy. And as we've just talked about, it's not a bad thing, right?
Yeah.
This idea of having strategy in a war, of having looking at the big picture, or coming in the rear and looking at what needs to be done. We can't be afraid of this idea of what it means to be a warrior, what it means to be at war. We've just got to change our minds about what that looks like. and allow new thinking. We're moving out of this old kind of thinking where the mind is so closed and tight
Mhm.
into expansive thinking, imaginative thinking,
and
creative
and
thinking.
fighting for things, better world. That's a different kind of war as well, you know.
Right,
Yeah.
right. And very exciting to think. It kind of moves all our cells up thinking about what can I be for? What can I stand for? What can I fight for? Which is so different to, fighting against, or,
Mm.
people saying, fuck this, fuck that. I mean, it just doesn't articulate well when you're trying to uh, shift what you believe in, right? Or into what you believe in. Because a lot of us, we don't really know exactly what we believe in, but we're
Yeah.
never going to get there if we don't start kind of moving towards it, speaking about it, speaking up towards it, and not being shut down. For myself, what I realize is, like, even like on social media, etc., when there are people telling me how to behave,
Mm.
because I don't mind. I'm willing to have discussions about anything, and I can certainly talk about it and admit if I'm wrong and taking someone else's point. I love that. But when people tell me to just kind of go with the flow, or that
Yeah.
ridiculous phrase, I'm not saying it isn't true, you must do whatever you want, but that thing, vote blue no matter who, that just makes my skin crawl.
Yeah.
Because, like, for me, I'm going to voice my opinions. I can't keep quiet, and I don't think I'm supposed to keep quiet at this time. But also this idea, like, I've seen people saying, I'll vote for anyone, anything. I'm like, no, I won't. It's
Some
like
people are like, I'll vote for
a
a
dog or something. I'm
yeah.
like, are you aware of what you're actually saying? Like, can you hear your words? And you think I'm just going to go along with you? Like, no, I'm not desperate to be saved by some man or some group. I want to be able to stand up for myself so I can be part of the group.
And have my opinions heard and stuff.
Right?
I've started answering those things with the gif with a of an ostrich with the head in the sand. Because that's what it makes me think of. It makes me think, well, what I think doesn't matter. I'm just gonna follow blindly. That's all.
Right. It's just like somebody there. It's the whole big daddy concept. Somebody up there knows the solution. So let's not rock the boat, because, oh my God, our solution is going to go out the window. It's like, well, I'd rather we have an intelligent conversation, a heartfelt, a connection where I can hear somebody has a different opinion, but we can agree on what is essential in a country, in an experience. I don't want to shut people down, but I'm not going to be silent and then let all that energy inside of my body turn into disease.
Well, vote no.
Hmm?
Comments like "vote blue" no matter who are meant to just shut you up. So
Right.
that's a way of
That's my
silencing
point.
somebody else completely. So Jen's right.
Right.
It doesn't mean that we won't either.
Right.
I'm not
Exactly.
committing to that. It just means don't say that.
Right. Stop saying those kind of things. Just encourage. I want to hear your opinion. I'd love to hear your opinion. How are we going to get along on this planet and as a group if we can't even allow, if we're too terrified to hear someone else's opinion in case they rock the boat? Which makes me think, huh?
I even had quite an interesting conversation with our tax guy when I went to do our taxes, because
Really?
he had a MAGA hat there. And so I was like, oh, you're a Trump supporter. And we actually had a very decent conversation.
That's fantastic. And why not, right?
Yeah.
Why should we demonize the people that don't agree with us? Because then that gives them space to do the same to us. And that's what we're doing. We're attacking each other through name calling, we're personalizing things. This isn't about personality.
No.
This is about what we're all looking for. And I guarantee you, underneath it all, we all want the same thing. We all want safety. We all want to be able to have food and to be able to walk freely and work and do all our things. So why wouldn't we focus on what we all desire
Exactly.
so we can come together? Like, it seems kind of like simple. I'm confused about the problem around that, I have to say.
And speaking of coming together, though, I did want to mention Juno. Juno is
Yes.
all on her own on the opposite side of the chart to all the other energy in the chart at 15 degrees of Libra. So she's what's called a singleton in astrology, which usually makes them quite a focal point. And in Libra, that is about diplomacy and coming together. And Juno is about the rights of the oppressed, the abused, and this is asking us. And she's also the asteroid of marriage, so the sacred kind of marriage. And so there she is, all on her own, saying, "Come together, speak to each other, use diplomacy, talk to each other."
Right. And at the 15 degree, I actually think that's in Libra. Isn't that one of the major portals? One of the four major portals.
I think it might be. Yeah.
Yeah, well, maybe not. But anyway, the point is that's the mid degree, and 15 is that 6. It's the same number of the card, and that 15 is this number of alchemy, the
Yeah.
ability to make gold out of whatever we have,
Yeah.
right? And this is the point, that we love who we are. We love this experience we're having. We jump in with joy to this idea of coming up with solutions and connecting to each other and living, a joyful life. It doesn't mean that nothing ever happens, but that we deal with it from a place of being at peace with who we are.
Exactly. So we're about 45 minutes in. Should we read the symbols and then go to a question, do you think?
Absolutely. Let's do that.
Okay. So I will go first this time with the Chandra symbol for Aries 5, because we always go up one. And it's the statue of a god worn smooth by devotees kissing, honoring the spirit within at all costs, insisting upon the vertical aspect in all things. You feel driven by the heart to go to any lengths to express and embody the realization of divinity. Intoxicated with the divine, called beyond and taken by a passion, you are dedicated and consecrated and given over, transported into other realms, ecstatic, a frenzy of conviction that nothing matters except the ultimate, swept away, released into the cosmos, liberated from the wheel, and expressing the inexpressible with consummate conviction. Well, it's about expressing your inner divination and truth, to my mind, and conviction, that one. And once you do that, you're kind of liberated from the grind of the wheel of life. So, in a
Yeah,
good way.
completely. The freedom to be who you are is the most sacred
Yeah,
freedom of all.
yeah.
And that all comes from the connection to the divine, living in gratitude, living in joy,
Mm,
living in peace with the opinions of others, the choices of others.
yeah.
Very beautiful. Okay, so the Sabian symbol for Aries 5, a triangle with wings. I love that.
Mm,
The keynote is the capacity for self-transcending, symbol of the desire to reach a higher level of existence, of pure aspiration or devotion, or of bhakti. What has emerged in the first phase is a process of differentiation. It's becoming aware of the possibility of further upreachings. The principle of levitation is seen as one of the two essential factors in evolution. The emergent being glorified and defied by it, as it is
deifies it.
deified. Oh, emergent being glorifies. That doesn't make sense. And deifies it.
The emergent being
Oh, the emergent,
deifies it. Yeah.
the person or the one who is emerging is being glorified, glorifies and deifies. Thank you, Louise, for fixing my speech. But it's still only an ideal. At this stage, nevertheless, the whole being experiences a childlike longing for its eventual realization. So a new dimension of being is envisioned, mobilizing creative endeavors.
Well, both the symbols have this feeling of devotion to new beginnings, to creating this new world kind of thing, I think, don't you?
Right. The
Yeah.
devotion to the spirit of who we are, to the inner growth of who we are, which is perfect for this time.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I think it echoes what we were talking about. Like, we have to cultivate adult devotion within us so that we can deal with the external world.
Mm.
When we're at peace, knowing we're connected to the divine, to the earth, then we can be at peace with what's around us.
We can. Cool. Okay, questions. Well, I admit I had not checked our email because I've been sick the last few days, but we've had a couple of people messaging us. I'm trying to see which one is actually kind of a question. Oh, somebody asked a show dedicated to just numerology, so I think that's up to Jen if she wants to do that, because she's the she's the numerologist. So okay, I don't know if these are questions as such. So let me just speak to one. I'm not going to use the name because she asked us not to. She said she's emailing to ask astrologically or numerologically, will her career ever take off? She has a day job and a passion, writing, but she's now 40 and nothing has happened despite numerous applications. She calls herself a careerless Cancer, meaning Cancer, the sun sign. Her date of birth was 7/9/79. So I'm actually going to just put that in the chart. I don't know if you want to speak to the numbers with that one.
Well, I can look at the 9, because what is she born, 7th month, the 9th?
7th month, yeah.
Okay, so
I
the
hope
9.
hope she's not from Europe.
Right, I'm always like, I don't know which way it is, but if it is the 9, the number 9, which is could connect with the Cancer idea, Cancer moon, very much an idealist, somebody who wants to express themselves, express love, believes in the connection of all, and of course, being a writer, that's a perfect match.
Mm,
I do feel like in this case, even though I can't see your chart and I don't see your whole numerology, etc., that this is a what do you call this? This is a a prophecy, a self-fulfilling prophecy.
mm,
Whatever I do, I won't be able to express who I am. And the bottom line is that you have to find what is true for you. As a Cancer moon, you will have to find what is your home, what you believe in other words, what ancestry, what roots you're choosing to believe in about yourself so that you can express. Because one of the keys about the 9 is that the 9 longs to express. It is made for expression. And in fact, it is our true uh, ego that is allowed to express and be childlike in a sense of putting ourselves out there, whether it's writing or anything, and not being focused on being made small by what other people say or do, but instead to embrace the idea that this is me expressing myself, and it doesn't matter whether people like it, they don't like it, but I'm expressing, and through my expression I am learning. And when you take ownership of who you are, then you have more opportunity to be successful.
mm,
Again, I'll just add this, that since success is something that we decide, you can decide that the success is writing. So just do it, enjoy it, love it, express it, and it can grow. You know.
Well, I do want to say, yes, she is a Cancer because I put her chart in. Of course, she's a Cancer because it's July. Cancer Sun. She's actually a Virgo Moon.
Oh, okay.
Even, and of course, I don't know the degree, the Virgo Moon, because we don't have a time or a place or anything like that, but that's Mercury ruled. But to add to what Jen already said, people with a Virgo moon can often be their own worst critics. They're like, never good enough. The constant inner meanie voice, and which needs to be overcome. So something to help you deal with the constant inner critic would be very useful. Something like the morning pages practice from the Artist's Way, where you can kind of write it out on the page, would be very good. But you must remember that the Virgo moon is Mercury ruled, which is a writer, and so you've got that Mercury in there, and Mercury is in Cancer, so you've got the ability to be creative. You've also got a North Node in Pisces, which has the ability to be creative. But really, for us to say for sure, yes, you will definitely ever take off in your passion is hard to do from what we're looking at. Also, though, you're age 40, you said, and so you're is that right? Yeah, you said you're 40. So you were born in 79. So if at age 42 you'll be coming up to your Uranus opposition. So that might be a break-free time. I didn't start my astrology career till I was 50, so it's not too late.
Exactly. And I didn't get into what I'm doing till I was in my 50s either.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't worry about that. I think the big thing here, and to me, what it feels like with the Cancer Sun, um, this is something about your father or disapproval. In your fourth house, your heritage is that you're not enough, you're not good enough, you'll never shine. Your desire is to express it. So again, I just re-emphasize basically what I was saying before, and I think what Louise is saying is this idea that you decide what it is, right? And you give yourself permission to do this, and you go do it. You have the ability because you have the Virgo moon, which means you have the ability to discipline yourself. You have the ability to express yourself with the Gemini influence. So it's like, yes, sit down, just write. Don't care about if you think it's good enough or if you think the world will accept it. And then you'll get to a place where you will have enough confidence to break past the illusion that you're not enough, right? It's practice. You're going to practice and you get there and it's like, oh, it's good enough. I'm going to send it out to a magazine or do whatever you need to do to make it real. You have everything you need.
And I would read Liz Gilbert's book. Which one? The one about
Right.
writing.
Right. It's
Yeah, the one
no,
with the colourful cover.
bright, shine bright. No.
Oh, we're terrible, aren't we?
Right.
Elizabeth Gilbert, though, the one on creativity. It's great about the creative process.
Fantastic. It's a fantastic book. It's exactly what you need. Perfect for you to understand. It doesn't matter what other people think. It doesn't even matter what you think. Just do it. If you have a desire and you have an urge, go for it, because this is what life's about. This is about us experiencing our urges, and just having a 9 as your day. I haven't calculated your other numbers. It's telling you, do it. Don't get so hooked into the fact that you're not enough, because you can choose either believe you're not enough, you're too much, or maybe you're just right. And why don't you just choose just right and just do it? Something, no, not playing big magic.
Big Magic, that was it. Yes, Big Magic, for sure. And The Artist's Way, that's another one.
Right. And the system, if you go through the actual system, not just doing pages, is fantastic.
Oh, yeah, I mean the whole book, the whole 12 weeks of,
Right. If you truly want to do this, and that's wonderful, then help yourself. How can you be the parent to your own desires and dreams?
Yeah. All right then, Jen, how can people find you?
They can find me on my website, jenduchenne.com. And for those, somebody mentioned that we should spell our names because they're not normal. But so Jen and my last name D as in David, UCHENE, jenduchenne.com. You can also find me on Facebook. I have a group, We Belong Here. I have a page. I'm on YouTube. I do YouTube videos. I'm kind of around everywhere, so you can find me there. If you're interested in buying the cards, you can go on my website, jenduchenne.com/illuminating journey cards. And I also teach classes in Akashic Records. I do readings. It's all there. Or you can get hold of me, jen@jenduchenne.com.
And I'm Louise Eddington, louiseeddington.com. So LOUISEEDINGTON, Eddington with one D. It will soon, hopefully, have cosmicowlastrology.com pointing to it. I've just got to find time to do the techie bits. But you can find me anywhere by Googling my name, or I have a Facebook page, Cosmic Owl Astrology. I have a Facebook group called Planetary Magic Cafe. I have a YouTube channel, Cosmic Owl Astrology. Instagram is Cosmic Owl Astrology. They're much easier to spell than my name. My book's available on my website, this one and my previous book, or on Amazon or other indie booksellers. And yeah, I think that's it for where to find me. But don't forget that we have a Patreon, patreon.com/weirdly magical, or email your questions, weirdlymagicalpodcast@gmail.com. And I think that's it for now. So it's goodbye from Lou.
And goodbye from Jen.